Welcome this Monday evening, Josh's Severe Weather. Appreciate you joining me here. We continue to keep our eyes on the first real threat to become a hurricane this Atlantic season. Erin has now formed as of 11 a.m. Eastern this morning. Although personally, I believe it was a tropical storm yesterday afternoon and evening, but we're not going to get into that today. That system has moved away from the Cabo Verde Islands and will track across the main development region this week and move close to the Caribbean islands as we get towards the end of this weekend. After that, things are looking a lot less confident in how this is going to play out. We're going to talk about it here in this video and other threats in the Atlantic and Pacific as well. So I appreciate you joining me here. I'm going to share my screen with you and walk you through a technical discussion here. This will probably go a little over 20, maybe 25 minutes, just to let you know, but I'll give you chapters so you can jump ahead if you need to. Here is a look at what's going on. The Atlantic is getting almost as busy as where the Pacific has been this year so far. This is Tropical Storm Erin now. We do have two other areas that we're watching in the North Atlantic, neither of them which look to be a threat to land at this point, and a disturbance over the Gulf that I've been tracking since the end of last week with no chance of developing. In the Pacific, we have seen Ivo finally fall apart here over cooler water. We do, though, have a rare hurricane north of Hawaii. In fact, this system strengthened. Came out of the Phoenix of a dead storm southeast of Hawaii, moved into some warmer water, and now a Category 1 hurricane again, tracking northwest and will likely get into cooler water. But the storm in the Pacific that has my eyes right now is this one. This is Typhoon Podul, and this is in the Philippine Sea and has shifted south again, likely to take a swing at Taiwan here as a stronger typhoon and then head into China beyond that. We're going to track that here in the coming days, but I'm going to spend the majority of this video talking about what's going on in the Atlantic. And here you can see now Tropical Storm Erin has made it past 30 degrees west as of 5 this evening. It's got a long ways to go. This is on average 9 to 10 days from the U.S. if it were to head that direction. We do have Invest 96, and this one only has a 10% chance of developing, which interestingly, models were all over this about a week ago. They said this could be a hurricane or at least a tropical storm. Well, that hasn't happened. It's been a challenging year so far, albeit it's not even August 15th. So it's really still kind of early in the year. The area that has seen more storms has been the northwestern Atlantic. We do have a disturbance to watch. This did not develop any time over the weekend as it looked like it could have, and still has about a 10% chance of maybe popping out a subtropical system here to the south of Newfoundland as it moves northeast. In the Gulf, we finally, I talked about this 3 days ago. It's kind of getting ridiculous with the Hurricane Center. Look, we have disturbed weather. It's been dumping on Florida. Now it's heading towards the northern Gulf Coast. It's not going to develop. A few days ago, it looked like it may try to, but it's not. Just a rainmaker at this point. But it's like, hey, welcome to the party, Hurricane Center. You know, there's been things we can track for several days here. What's taking you until 2 p.m. to even mention it? So anyway, I'm not going to tell them how to do their jobs. I am a qualified meteorologist. Those of you who may not believe that, just go back and watch some videos. But we're gonna talk about whatever it is. Okay. Here's a look at our current infrared satellite. This is Tropical Storm Erin here, a small system. There's actually another wave behind it that looks a lot more impressive, but does not have a circulation with it yet at this point. We'll have to track that as well. Erin is going to be generally heading in this direction, and then there's a split coming after that. This system is going to come underneath and then try to follow it. We do have Invest 96L here, which is just really struggling at this point. We do have low pressure as well off of the East Coast, but both of those are heading away from land and should not be a threat to land. And then things are really nasty across the Gulf and across the Carolinas and Southeast here. Very disorganized system, but a lot of rain coming as we enter a phase of what should be a pretty wet August here across this portion of the country. So that's what we're tracking today. I am going to show you the Gulf here first. And you can see here things have really blown up. Now, again, 0% chance this develops into a depression or storm. 100% chance there's going to be a lot of rain. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. We see the action picking up across Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and mainly offshore Florida, but the panhandle has gotten wetter. I do want to show you here on the water vapor as well what's going on here. So this is really just a surface trough. It's going to struggle because it's stuck between two mid and upper level lows. You can see here's one of those very broad upper level low. We call it a ULL in the weather world here, and that is moving west across Cuba into the Gulf. We also have an upper level low over Texas. That's feeding the moisture in out of the southwest here. So we do have a bit of convergence, and where everything is converging on this trough, it's just dumping heavily. So again, not a favorable setup for a tropical system to form, but a favorable setup for heavy rainfall. Here's the viz as well, just to show you what we're looking at here. And you can see there really isn't any kind of surface circulation. It looks pretty chaotic, but it is actually an area producing a bigger region of storms and what we're seeing with Tropical Storm Erin. So something to watch at this point. Here's the radar loop as well from the same site. And you can see it's really difficult to make out any kind of circulation. If there is a center, it's somewhere over here to the south of Panama City Beach, and it's heading in this direction here. All of this rain continues to feed in from the southeast, and it's going to be a wet few days over the northern Gulf Coast. So that is what we're tracking here across the Gulf, across the Caribbean. Pretty quiet over the eastern and central portion. Very wet, though, with that disturbed area here over the southwestern Caribbean, off the coast of Nicaragua, north of Colombia, right over San Andres, I believe is the island there. And this is going to move into Central America. So it's going to pick up the rains here, but should not develop into anything tropically at this point. Here's the upper low you can see as well to the north and west of it. So this is just surface convergence, nothing more. We're seeing some heavy rain over portions of Jamaica and southeastern Cuba, and typical afternoon storms have flared up over Hispaniola, Puerto Rico. A little bit of moisture as well moving across the Leeward Islands. We're going to see some heavy rain heading again into Trinidad and southern Tobago here, but that is not coming, at least in the form of any kind of tropical development at this point. Here's a look farther out into the central and eastern Atlantic. You see the monsoon trough right here. That is south of 10. And then we see the trough kind of resumes here. And we've got Tropical Storm Erin, which is a small system. There's a lot of dry air off to the north and west, some stratus coming in as well, producing some stable air. So Erin is now going to be in for a little bit of a fight for her life over the next couple of days as she moves west. But eventually things should become more favorable for Erin to develop into a stronger system. It's going to take a little time, but that eventually should be the case. This next wave looks pretty impressive coming off the coast, but it is really not too likely to develop into anything. It's got to wait for Erin to get out of the way. Erin's going to actually produce some shear. Even though Erin is little, it's like if you are walking down the hall and you don't have the lights on and you've got a small dog that's in the hall and you don't see them and you trip over them and fall. Well, it's a bigger person getting hurt by a littler animal. That's kind of how this setup is. And I don't really know how else to explain it to you, but that's what we're looking at this moment. You can see more waves set to come off of Africa. So I suspect after Erin, we will eventually maybe see Fernand and then Gabrielle, and we'll see. Right now, it's always difficult to say which of these will develop until we start to see some clarity after they come off the coast. But meanwhile, we're going to talk about Erin here, and the system looked better at this time yesterday than it does now. And the reason why, yesterday, water temperatures over the Cabo Verdes were a few degrees warmer. Today, it's moved into a slightly drier environment with cooler water. So it will fight for a couple of days, it looks like. Then it should be in a more optimal place to strengthen. So don't let your guard down on this one. I know, unfortunately, in the Cabo Verdes, we had some fatalities due to the flooding, not so much from the wind yesterday, but I talked about it, and I'm not criticizing officials or anything like that, but this thing was a tropical storm yesterday, and it didn't get a name until 11 a.m. Honestly, it should have been a potential tropical cyclone. There should have been tropical storm warnings in effect, and certainly flood watches or however they deal with it over there. By the way, this used to be the Cape Verde Islands, and in 2013, they changed it to Cabo Verde. And I'm pretty sure a lot of folks were not happy with that. And probably if you say Cabo Verde, you're probably going to get a mouthful back from those. I say that tongue in cheek. All right. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, here's the visible satellite, a little bit closer view. And you can see, obviously, it's gotten dark now, but we still have a pretty good little circulation going here, but not a very big storm at this point. And so here's the water vapor image showing you that there is a large area here of stable dry air in place. There's a big subtropical high pressure ridge, and that's going to steer this on east to west path pretty quickly over the bottom of that ridge. So we're going to be fighting dry air for a while here. The next system, as it comes off, actually gets into a moisture environment. So it may actually overachieve, and we're going to have to watch that one here as well. It's a couple days behind. Here's the surface plot, and you can see winds have not really been significant over the Cabo Verdes. I'm sure there were some gusts last night that got up there, but right now pressures are over 1010, so it's not a very intense system. But the moisture feed continues over the southern islands here with more heavy rain coming, unfortunately. Here is the official forecast now from the National Hurricane Center. And I went to Tomer Berg's site so that you could see the cone, but also where the track goes with respect to surface temperatures, sea surface temperatures. And you could see yesterday the storm got itself very well organized for a couple of reasons. Number one, it went over a tongue of some warmer water here, equivalent to about 82, 83 degrees Fahrenheit. Now it's very marginal, about 79 to 80 for at least the next 24 hours. Eventually, the system is going to move into a region of warmer water, but it's going to probably have to get past 45 west before it really has a chance of developing into a hurricane. And that's what the National Hurricane Center is predicting. A couple of things that we're watching here. One is the water temperatures and how deep that warmer water is. Two will be the amount of moisture in the atmosphere. And three is going to be how much wind shear we have. And right now, things are looking fairly favorable. So we expect this to be not just a hurricane, but eventually a major hurricane by the time we get to the end of this week or next weekend. Quite a flip from yesterday when the National Hurricane Center had this as an X and potentially becoming a tropical depression or storm somewhere in here. Now it's potentially a major hurricane. That to me shows that we still have a way to go here when it comes to tropical forecasting. The models right now are in pretty good agreement that this system moves west for the next 2 days, then begins to bend away from the northern islands, but it could be kind of close. So just something to keep an eye on here. Eventually, a recurve may be coming if you believe most of these models here. And that's something the islanders of Bermuda need to be watching pretty carefully. I'm going to show you ensembles in a minute, though, that show there will still be some possibility this curve could come later on, which would make us a lot more uncomfortable in the eastern U.S., eastern Canada, and the Bahamas as well. The intensity forecast is actually in pretty good agreement. This system will eventually get to hurricane intensity somewhere between Wednesday night and Friday morning, more than likely. Major hurricane intensity is certainly a possibility. You can see here about half of the tropical models show that happening. It could be as soon as Thursday, maybe as late as Saturday, but it is happening. And most of the model guidance shows that there will be a period of maybe some rapid intensification in here. But until the system finds its way out of the dusty, dry air, it's going to be tough for that to happen. When it does happen, though, assuming it does, we're going to know it once it starts. Right now, just a possibility, but it is a likelihood that something like that could, in fact, happen. I'm going to show you why that is. Here's the ship's forecast. It shows that strengthening here. It's not super, super rapid, but it is 3 times the climatological average over the next 2 days. And the reason why is that we start to see warmer heat content in the ocean when the system gets out into about this area in here. The humidity is a little dry. It's down to 60%. Will come down a little bit more, but it does climb as the system moves up here. So moisture here, drier over here, cooler here, warmer here, hot by the time we get up into here. Wind shear is going to be low here, moderate in here, and then starts coming back down in here. So I did a lot of drawing, and I'm a terrible artist, but you can see here our parameters for this system to become a major hurricane are fairly high by the time it gets into this window in here. Low enough wind shear for that to happen, warmer sea surface temperatures, a moisture environment, and enough heat content for a system like this to strengthen. And we've had some models that have even indicated beyond category 3 to 4. I saw one tropical model went with Cat 5 and backed off on that. You know, with the history that we've seen here in recent years of category 4s and 5s forming, it would not shock me if that happened. But for now, we're going to go category 3 to maybe category 4. All right, here are the ensembles. We'll start with the GFS. There's definitely a split coming here in the possibility. So the model track is fairly confident up until you get to about 55, 56 west. So that's going to be sometime Friday, Saturday. And then after that, there's a recurve coming, we think, We do have some ensemble members that don't show that happening, though, very quickly. So you have to watch in this area of the world, unfortunately. But the majority of our models here are showing a recurve near Bermuda, which could be very bad for Bermuda. As far as intensity forecasts, the GFS has pretty much all but maybe two of its members showing hurricane intensity. The strongest member showing here about 945 millibars, which would be a solid category 3 to low end category 4 hurricane. And those are the ones that we see here in the brighter red or in the darker red colors. So some category 3 and 4 potential with some of these ensembles in here. This is going to change. In fact, I will show you later on in tomorrow's video how it changes. Here's the European AI. Not a lot different. Oh, man, I had this up a moment ago, and here we go. Not a whole lot different than the GFS. It's a little farther south and west, meaning those of you in the Netherlands, Antilles, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands might want to watch a little more closely if you believe this. But the recurve is showing up on a lot of our models. Now, the mean in black shows that happening to the west of Bermuda here in about 8 days, which would be next Tuesday. But possible impacts from some of these on the southeast coast as soon as Tuesday night or Wednesday, assuming it gets close enough. So we're going to have to watch that closely. Here's what the next 15 days looks like. I'm going to draw a line and show you where it's probably going to be on Monday, somewhere in here. So this weekend, it's about here. Monday, it's about here. Tuesday, about here. This is Bermuda right over here. Wednesday, about here. Thursday here, Friday, and then weekend after next, it's already moving away, we expect. This is not a very strong chance right now showing the East Coast being in play, but there are several ensembles that are close enough to cause us concern. I would say about a 10% chance right now. I would say about a 60% chance it's going to be within a couple hundred miles of Bermuda and here, and about a 20% to 30% chance that it ends up curving before it gets to Bermuda, which would be the best case for all of us here. So that's where we stand today. It is still awfully far off in the future. So we're not going to get super carried away with that just yet. Just know that the spread is there. The European operational has even more spread. It's a lot like the European AI. It has nothing, though, going into the Gulf. It's got 3 members coming up towards the Carolinas. It's got about 9 or 10 members coming within a few hundred miles of the East Coast. And then about 60 to 70% of the ensemble shows that recurve, with Bermuda being right about here. Unfortunately, right smack dab in the middle of where our ensemble members are showing things. And the European, by the way, has some pretty intense possibilities. One of the ensembles goes 917. That's a category 5. The other 920. That's borderline category 5. 926, strong category 4. 927. So the GFS has less spread, but it also does not get as strong as the European when you look at all the ensembles. The European says a much bigger spread and a lot more possibilities here. And it's still awfully early on here with this being a newly formed tropical storm. So we've got some time to watch. Here is the Google DeepMind AI system here showing you some possibilities here. Tropical storm now, interestingly, the Google model weakens it to a high-end tropical depression here for Tuesday night, and then back to a tropical storm Wednesday morning, and then a hurricane just northeast of the islands Friday night. And then a category 2 hurricane Sunday night, Monday morning, north of Hispaniola and southwest of Bermuda. Category 3 soon after that. So it has some faster intensification. And then a category 2 passing Bermuda to the west. And then category 1 over the northern Atlantic. And then a post-tropical system near Newfoundland. I'm going to take this back for you to be able to see the tracks and to see the cone here. So these are the tracks. Here's the cone. Pretty good shape here right on through Friday. The storm's going to be within 100 miles, we believe, of this line. Then we start to see some spread as it gets closer to the Virgin Islands here on Saturday. And at that point, we have a couple of ensemble members that are going still very close to the islands and then approaching the Bahamas. And then we have to watch that, unfortunately, on the east coast of Florida into the Carolinas. Now, those are the outliers at this point. We have a couple of outliers as well that turn the storm faster and swing by to the right to the east of Bermuda. But a strong majority of these are near or to the west of Bermuda, with the timeline on that being sometime next Tuesday, about 8 days from now. The average model errors that far out are 300 to 400 miles. So 300 or 400 miles east or west of this mean here puts us very close to the Outer Banks. 300 miles to the east takes it well to the east of Bermuda and just kicks up the surf. So that's where things stand. I will say this, for August storms that form all the way down in here, the majority of them recurve. We have several that have impacted Florida and the East Coast, but about 80 or so percent end up recurving before the U.S. East Coast. A few of them have found a way to make it into the Gulf, but less than 10%. I would say about 5%. I have gone back and done a little bit of work to take a look at when the big East Coast storms were. And I would say 90% of them actually occurred after Labor Day. North Carolina, East Coast of Florida, with a few exceptions, September is really the time to be watching. Doesn't mean this couldn't happen in August. There have been a few that have done that. Hurricane Andrew comes to mind, but it is not very common. So just something to keep in mind at this point, looking at that climatology. We're going to look at the tropical models here real fast, starting with a HAVS model and showing a tropical storm that begins to strengthen on Wednesday. And then we get into a better environment for this to strengthen further into a category 3, maybe category 4 hurricane. By Saturday afternoon, makes its closest approach to the islands. The model doesn't go beyond that. Here's another HAVS model. I've already showed it to you. It's a little bit slower, but almost in the same kind of the same neighborhood here. You see the dry air facing it. Then eventually that dry air weakens and we get into a more favorable environment for intensification. A lot of that's going to be the warm water and the lower wind shear that makes that happen. The dry air is going to be there, but this system will find a way to punch it out of the way. Here's the GFS global model. It has shown strengthening as well. You can see the track here, moderate intensification through Thursday morning to a hurricane, then a category 2 on Friday, category 3 Friday night, Saturday morning, and possibly category 4 south of Bermuda here on Sunday. The GFS, though, is turning the system and moving it very close to Bermuda and then weakening it gradually as it moves into the higher latitudes, not threatening Canada directly, but eventually becoming a threat to the UK, especially Scotland, when we get to a week after Sunday. So this is just one model. Here's a look at the upper level pattern that's going to direct the storm. You'll see that there's an area of high pressure that is going to drive this system west, maybe even a little bit south of west. You can kind of see that steering here around the high, which is going to be centered to the north of the system. That's going to take it in this general direction. Now, over time, there is a ridge of high pressure centered over Florida that builds in, but there will be a weakness left between the two. And the biggest question mark I have is, where is that weakness going to be in a week? Generally, we've seen models like this kind of flip and flop. We've seen them trend one way or the other. A few days ago, that weakness was going to be slower, and this system was taking a track towards Florida, maybe the Carolinas. Today, you can see that weakness does pick it up and turns it over Bermuda here on Tuesday next week, and then kicks it out. That could certainly change. The European is a little farther west with this, and something we're going to have to watch on the eastern seaboard. You see the ridges there. You see the trough picking it up, but a stronger ridge builds in when we get to next weekend, and that allows it to go farther west before making that turn. You can kind of see there's just a weak ridge just to the north of this system, and that gives it an opportunity to get a little bit closer to the eastern seaboard, unfortunately. By the way, here's the next one and the one after it. Maybe we get to those next couple of storms. Maybe we don't. Here's the Canadian model. I will caution you on the Canadian. It doesn't make this system much of a system until it gets towards the islands. And even then, it's a weaker tropical storm. I think it's too weak. But you can see when it gets to the warmer water, it does strengthen the system. Because the Canadian is slower to get this thing going, it allows it to come quite a bit closer to the eastern seaboard. And this would put the Outer Banks kind of in the window here for next Thursday. Again, it's just one model, so we're not going to put all of our stock in it, but it's something we need to watch. Here is the icon model from earlier. You can see that it very much like the GFS has this system coming up towards Bermuda. Here are the two behind it. And here's an idea of where the strongest winds are going to go. So this system's going to grow and it'll pick up a lot of steam here. And you can see how sharp that turn is on the GFS. I want to back this up and just show you Bermuda real quick. This is pretty scary looking. It has wind speeds over 100 miles per hour, up to 111 knots, just on the western side of Bermuda here. So about 120, 130 miles per hour. Now, Bermuda gets storms like these all the time. Do they make a direct hit, though? Very rare. So they are battle tested, but it'll be interesting to see how this plays out here and how close this actually gets. The European model is farther to the west. You will see that it's got a similar size to it, but it manages to avoid Bermuda. Stays off the East Coast, fortunately, but will kick up the wind and surf there for sure. And you can see here the forecasted wind on Bermuda is quite a bit lower here. In fact, only at about 50 to 60 knots, which is high end tropical storm intensity. So it's too soon to put out a path forecast beyond 5-6 days. We just have to keep watching it. I still think we have these two options, either of which could be right, even though the majority of our guidance says it recurves a lot farther away from the eastern seaboard. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to end up that way. It just means that's the more likely scenario at this point. So I'm going to leave you with a quick word of encouragement. I am a Christian man, and whatever you do, do it heartily as to the Lord and not to men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the reward of inheritance, for you serve the Lord Christ. As a Christian man, listening to the words of Paul to the church of the Colossus, this is encouraging to me because it tells me that I've been called to do something important that matters. I'm not doing the Lord's work for him, but I am putting in my very best effort. The Lord has called me to be a meteorologist. We've all been called to do something, but he's told me whatever I do to go ahead and put my best foot forward and put all my effort into it, to give my 100%. And the reason why is because there's an ultimate reward that is waiting for you. It's waiting for me. It doesn't matter how successful you are on earth, how much recognition you get, how much money you make. We're only here for a finite amount of time. What really matters is that we've been promised eternal inheritance by God. You know, when you work a job here and you've been promised a paycheck, you're going to want to do your best work, especially if you're in sales like I am and for my day job. The more effort you put in, the more you're going to make. But at the end of the day, we're doing it to please God, not each other, not our family, not our friends. So if you keep God first, he will in fact reward you. I totally believe he rewards you. The seeds you put in now into the ground, they may not come up right away, but they will come up and there will be a wonderful harvest waiting for you. And that is the good news I wanted to share with you because I know it's very easy for you to judge somebody like me who gets on YouTube and puts out all these eye-catching graphics to get your attention, your clicks. But at the end of the day, I want you to understand what's going on without all the hype and all of the speculation that is unreasonable. But at the end of the day, I want you to understand that I'm you, you're me. We are God's children, and we have the option to choose what we believe. But God has a wonderful reward waiting for us because he is good all the time, and all the time he is good. All right, I'll catch up with you all tomorrow. Have a blessed evening. See ya.